I have spoken to some top Democrats who say that there would actually be relief if he were to step down. And one person said to me, look, everyone's counting out Kamala Harris because right now her poll numbers are below President Biden's. But if she were to be the one to carry this torch into November, there could be a method of reintroducing her to the country that could be effective with independents, with moderates, with those critical suburban women that are necessary for winning the White House.
NBC's Kristen Welker is floating the idea that should Joe Biden decide to step down from the presidential race, that could create an avenue in which Kamala Harris, his vice president, is reintroduced to American voters who get to decide who wins the general election. But Kamala Harris really isn't being seriously considered as a Biden replacement in the off chance that Biden does the right thing and step down. Right now, by the way, there's no indication that he intends to do that. His family, including Jill Biden, is urging him to stay in the race despite his horrible, terrible debate performance. Now, Politico reports that Harris's allies are frustrated with all the chatter about a possible replacement involving Gavin Newsom, the California governor, or Michigan's governor, Gretchen Whitmer. And I want to give you some of the anonymous quotes by Harris allies to Politico. One of them says, the fact that people keep coming back to this is so offensive to so many of us. They still don't get that the message you're saying to people, to this Democratic Party, is we prefer a white person.
Oh, please.
So they're weaponizing race in order to make a case for Kamala Harris, despite the fact that she has her own vulnerabilities. We'll get to that in just a moment. Another Harris ally told Politico, if they think they are going to get through South Carolina bashing an effective and qualified black woman vice president, their instincts are as bad as I thought they were. I would venture to say that this Harris ally has terrible instincts. Because as we know, Kamala Harris's approval rating has been low for a long time now, mostly because of the fact that she seems super uncomfortable out in public as she's addressing the public, as she's giving speeches. And in fact, I have one of the more recent examples for you in just a moment. She put out an ad with an actress recently, and it is not good. But Cenk, what do you think about this? Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team.
If you've got to reintroduce someone when they were already the vice president and a senator and have been involved in politics for decades, that person has problems. We don't want to get rid of Biden and then get to another person with giant problems that we have to re-educate the American people on. Okay, and then look at the code words they're using. It would be offensive. I don't care if it's offensive to you. I'm sorry, I don't care at all. I want to win. I want to beat Donald Trump. I find living under fascism to be offensive. And I don't give a goddamn about your feelings. Second of all, you're lying. What does that mean? Oh, this is an affront to black people and women. Is it? Well, what if Gretchen Whitmer is the candidate? How is it an affront to women if we just selected a female presidential candidate?
Well, she is white.
Okay.
Unacceptable.
All right, well, hold on. How about if it's Reverend Warnock? Is it still offensive to black people if it's Reverend Warnock or Governor Wes Moore? No, you're just playing identity politics to protect your own ass. Let's keep it real. Please stop insulting us. I would rather have Reverend Warnock or Wes Moore or Gretchen Whitmer 1,000 times more than I would than have Kamala Harris. You know why? Because she can't complete a sentence, just like the president. And I'm going to explain in a minute to you how they're going to use her as a defense shield. But first, the brain dead people that work for Kamala Harris that are leaking this stuff. Let's see how they get through South Carolina. That was in the primaries. South Carolina in the general election is irrelevant. The Republicans are going to win it under all circumstances. So what are you talking about? The primaries are already over. If this is your best case, you're kind of proving our point.
Look, one of the vulnerabilities for Kamala Harris is that she has difficulty speaking in public. I didn't expect this. I thought as a former prosecutor, and after watching her during various hearings, including the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, that she was going to make a strong case for herself, that she was going to be a wonderful public speaker. But that just hasn't been the case. She's awkward, she's uncomfortable. Recently, she put out a campaign ad with actress Taraji P. Henson. I'm just going to let the ad speak for itself. Let's watch. Respond well to the obvious code switching and pandering.
Yeah,
right?
no, that was vomitous.
Out here in these streets and they not like us.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Be a normal person. Please, Kamala, be a normal person. You're a smart woman. Like, you don't need to do.
If you've been waiting to apply for disability benefits, don't. Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm a lawyer at Atticus. Applying as
do this. Just make your case and speak like a normal human being.
So isn't she Ivy League educated? She's a vice president.
But she's out here in these streets, okay?
Yeah, what streets? You were in a very plush studio. What streets are you out in? Okay, and have you ever seen Kamala Harris in the streets? Have you seen her in any? I haven't seen her in any streets. What are you talking about? They not like us. Is that how you speak when you're at a debate? Is that how you speak when you're in front of a convention? Or are you trying to patronize African Americans? You know what that sounded like to me? It sounded like when Republicans do fake black ads. You remember we've covered a lot of those? They'll have somebody go, oh, this jive isn't working. We're gonna work. The hot thing to do is to vote for Republicans. Like, oh, you're like humiliating and patronizing, disgusting stuff. Now Kamala Harris is doing it. You don't speak like that. Shut up.
So that's the most recent example, but I want to show you a compilation to further solidify the point that I'm trying to make here. Let's watch.
My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you. The governor and we were all doing a tour of the library here and talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time when we think about a day in the life of our children. I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past, but the future.
I don't think that the people kind of passing up Kamala Harris as a potential replacement for Biden are doing so because she's a black woman. I think it's because of how she has performed as vice president. It has to do with her approval rating as vice president. And it has to do with the fact that if Biden were to be replaced, you'd want to replace him with someone who has the highest chances of beating Donald Trump. Kamala Harris does not appear to be that individual.
Yeah, so there's two different things going on at once. The Kamala team pushing her out there like, oh, we got this. And then the Biden team pushing her out there to use her as a defense. He doesn't have it, so you have to stick with us. So I'm gonna get to that in a second. But do you understand why they have her doing ads? Because she can't speak without a prompter. You get the word sounds that we just showed you. The future is about not the past or the present, but the future. And it lies out there.
I mean, look.
Like what?
Look, to be fair, I've made similar points, Jake, when I'm stoned.
Yeah, no, but that's gonna get to my point. So I looked it up. Not Ivy League graduate, but great schools. Howard, the UC system for law school, right? So it's not that she's not smart, she's perfectly smart. There's something wrong with her. Those word salads are not normal. There's something disconnected.
Something's going on, and I don't know what it is because maybe I was wrong. I thought she was just way different. Again, watching her and how she handled herself during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, her line of questioning, she came across as confident, as
competent.
And competent, exactly. And so I don't know what's going on with her now, but she now has a record within the Biden administration of giving these weird meandering speeches that go nowhere.
Look, guys, I'll tell you the last two things about Kamala Harris in regards to what other Democrats think of her and other people on the left. So number one, I've talked to insiders and they'll defend Joe Biden. Sometimes it's cursory, sometimes they mean it. But when you get to Kamala Harris, no matter how establishment they are, no matter how deep inside the Biden administration are, no one defends her. They know something we don't know that is even worse about Kamala Harris. Then I went on black radio for a bunch of times when I was running the campaign. And people who are diehard supporters of Kamala Harris were like, nah, it's okay. Okay, like everybody knows the jury's in. There's something wrong with her. We don't know what it is. But what I don't want to do is go from a guy who has trouble finishing a sentence to a woman who has trouble finishing a sentence. That's a terrible, terrible idea. The whole point of getting rid of Biden is to pick a better candidate. And she actually polls lower. Now to the absurdities, Anna. Her advocates are saying, no, we should pick her because she's really popular with young voters and she's the most, the best advocate for women's rights. Which poll has her popular with young voters? Her number one downside back in 2020 was that she was terrible with younger voters. I've never seen that poll. You just made that up. Okay, just because she's not 81 doesn't mean she's popular with younger voters. She was called a cop. She was the conservative in the race. You just made it up, totally out of whole cloth. And then secondly, best fighter for reproductive rights. Really? Is that in the streets? Because I haven't seen it. Like I've seen people give barn burner speeches, usually at the local level, right? Some wonderful Democratic legislatures at the states, right? Have you seen Kamala Harris just like, yes, way to go, way to fight for our rights? I've never seen it.
I have to say, listen, and Kamala Harris is cleared of any wrongdoing on this allegation that I'm about to make because she wasn't in the Senate at the time that this happened. But Democrats have already failed on protecting our reproductive rights. They have squandered the opportunity to codify abortion and reproductive rights in America. They squandered it. Yet they are running their campaigns on vote for us because we want to protect reproductive rights. You guys failed. So how are we supposed to give you credit after failing?
Yeah, and it's not just that, hey, vote for us, we'll protect him. They say because we have such a great record of protecting her.
Do you?
But that's why I quoted this. I'm like, wait, at what point did you protect reproductive rights? Because we lost them. Because if you were busy protecting them, you failed. And by the way, they did fail by constantly losing to Trump and the Republicans. They established the same Democratic leaders that are gaslighting you now and telling you how wonderful Joe Biden is. Also told you how Hillary Clinton was guaranteed to win. And what happened then? She lost, we lost the Supreme Court, and we lost Roe because of the incompetence of Democratic leadership. Full stop. No argument at all, that's exactly what happened. Okay, now let's go to Biden's team. Biden's team is putting Kamala Harris out there like, well, if you get rid of us, you're gonna be stuck with Kamala. Well, first of all, you're the one who picked her to be vice president. So now your best argument is, remember I was such an incompetent fool that I picked this totally unacceptable person as vice president, but at least now she's protecting me because arguably she's even more incompetent than I am.
God, I'm so disgusted with Democrats. I can't get past it. It's so disgusting. And like, look, if you are a Kamala supporter, think about what Cenk just said right now. Think about how the Biden camp is using the threat of Kamala Harris as president. But while they're doing that, they're kind of shooting themselves in their own foot because part of the problem is that Biden is considered too old. There are concerns that he might not be able, even if he miraculously pulls off the election and gets reelected, a huge portion of this country is concerned that he's not going to live through the 4 years that he's president, which means what? His vice president becomes president. So while you're using this talking point in order to fearmonger about Kamala Harris, you're also kind of hurting yourself in trying to get reelected.
Of course, she's your vice presidential candidate. And you're out there telling the press,
oh my God,
remember my vice president is a disaster. That's why you should stay with me even though I'm a disaster. Okay, last thing. I tweeted earlier today about how they were using Kamala Harris as a defense shield, exactly like I just told you. And the New York Times had this quote later in the day, proving me right. Quote, Mr. Biden was also protected in an unexpected way by his choice of Ms. Harris as his vice president. Many Democrats thought she lacked the political skills and presence to lead a national ticket, but believed it would be hard to deny the first black woman vice president the top spot if Mr. Biden did not run again. So they're saying, now remember, you wanted Joe Biden to run because you know Kamala's a disaster, and if you don't, and if I'm not running, you have to pick the black woman because of racial politics. So Biden is ironically using identity politics as a weapon and saying you'd be stuck with the black woman if it's not me. Oh, that's terrible. Jesus, that's terrible. So
I mean, I don't put anything past them at this point.
I mean, it's in the press. They're leaking it everywhere. They've got direct quotes. So this is an epic disaster. If you can't see that we need an entirely new candidate, you're out to lunch, you're blue MAGA, and you're handing the election to Trump. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. And